Christina, thank you very much for joining me today.
Great, thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been a couple of years now at Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Just if you can give me just a really brief update on all the things that you've been working on there.
Sure. So 2 years in January. I got there 2 years in January. So 2 years, 2 months. It's been fantastic. Very focused in the first year on air service, increasing the nonstop opportunities out of Pittsburgh in order to meet the market demand for today and then plan for the future. Couple of really great accomplishments there and some frustrations, which still challenges that we've got. Very focused on the facility. As one of the dehubbed airports, we've got too much space and it's aging, so we're paying a lot of attention to that. Spent a lot of time on the team getting that in place so that it can run, right, and face the challenges we have to meet. And finally, I would say that we've really worked hard on partnerships with the community, in the industry, etc.
Excellent. Any pain points? I know you mentioned just
Oh, yeah.
the onboarding process must be,
Yeah, well,
a struggle.
it's there's no question that, first of all, I was new to Pittsburgh. I had only ever been there once. And secondly, new to running an airport. So having consulted to the airport industry is a lot different than being in the CEO spot. So lots of just getting up to speed on the community and then on the airport operation itself. Fortunately, I'm surrounded by a lot of great professionals who were fantastic in aiding me in that. Pain points really are still around some of the service that we don't have, West Coast in particular, and I would say more robust European service that matches the market because we have such a high concentration of German companies. So, getting that service nonstop would be important. We have so many travelers back and forth to London. That's an important need for us, but we're very happy with how we've gotten started, and we think that service can only grow from here.
I mean, that's the one thing I did notice. Obviously, again, not to compare, I guess, your tenure or the results that you've experienced with the previous person in that position, but what have you done differently, in all honesty? Everything.
So what I would say is that I think that, as the hub was coming down, that took a certain type of leadership, and it took a certain type of focus and attention on cutting costs and shoring up the operation so that it was stable, that there was not a lot of volatility with staff, with the community, etc. At some point, there was an inflection point at which the market started to change and there was an opportunity to start driving towards being assertive and aggressive out in the marketplace, proactive and saying, hey, come on back, let's look at Pittsburgh again. And I'm the right person for that, right? I would not have been the right person for the previous challenge, but I am the right person for now. So I would say that I didn't bring anybody with me when I got there. I've done this with the existing team. Granted, some folks are new and in new positions, but I would say it's been a relentless focus on what the organization needs, on a commitment to a vision that we all bought into pretty early on, and a lot of hard work.
Has it been also part of just gathering all the, all the interested parties, all that, building kind of like a coalition? You have your CBBs or your businesses, and kind of getting together to kind of pitch routes to and from Pittsburgh. Has that been an approach?
No, I would say that they've been supportive in giving us the data we need, but and once we get an airline to visit us in Pittsburgh, absolutely, we roll out the red carpet, and they are very integral to saying, look, these are the people who are going to fill the seats on your planes. It's not going to be the airport, right? It's going to be Visit Pittsburgh. It's going to be the Allegheny Conference, the Tech Council, the German-American Chamber. Their members are the ones who are going to fly. And getting us into a position where we can talk to the airlines, that's what those partnerships have helped us do. We haven't necessarily gone to the airlines with them, in those meetings, just because those meetings tend to be very analytical and down in the weeds, right? So, and we had so much work to do in just changing the idea of who and what Pittsburgh is versus what it was, that in the beginning, we called on our relationships and just said, look, you kind of have to believe us here and take a look and look at us differently. And then we started to gain momentum, and that happened naturally, where airlines said, what are we missing? What's going on there?
Has the local economy in Pittsburgh kind of had a lot to do with the, you mentioned a lot of German companies or things like that,
right,
that helped to increase the air service?
Yeah, so that legacy of, Bear had its North American headquarters in Pittsburgh for years, and a lot of companies followed them. So I would say that the the legacy of Pittsburgh's economy has been in steel. We know that, and it was in manufacturing. And as steel left as a viable alternative for Pittsburgh's future, the community came together, really government, nonprofit, business, and leaders throughout the community to say, how do we diversify? And there's been a very deliberate effort to diversify the economy so that there would never be dependence again on one industry. That has absolutely had a huge impact on our ability to attract air service. So we've got all of this high-tech investment coming out of Silicon Valley. We've got the Marcellus Shale and an energy industry. We have finance, banking, healthcare. So this offers some stability to the economy, and that's a very different story than 15 years ago when the hub was being taken down and steel had left. So yeah, the economy is the story, and the millennials coming in is the story, and the university system is the story. All of those pieces working together has been incredibly powerful in getting people to look at Pittsburgh differently.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you had never run an airport before, but you've managed people, so it's
true.
It's maybe not on this scale.
That's true.
But I mean, but being in the industry, at least adjacent to the industry, in your consulting role, did that help? Lessen the learning curve.
Oh, no question, and especially working with airports around the world. So when I was consulting, I was really lucky to work with airports in the U.S. for years, but also in Europe and in Asia, and was able to see best practice, was able to see that things are done differently elsewhere, that maybe we could question some things, was able to see frustrations on the part of personnel in airports of being, what you can get done and how quickly. So yeah, all of that had a lot to do with being able to come in on day one and say, all right, how do we think about this in a way that gets us someplace meaningful, right? There's a path, there's a vision, what do we want to do? And then the path, how do we do it? Both of those were incredibly important to get settled first, and I think my years of consulting definitely helped with both of those.
Now, you said there was obviously some changeover from the previous staff to the current staff and some holdovers, but just talk about I guess your efforts to change the mindset of going from the previous administration to your administration.
So I would say that just had lunch with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about the team, and I can get very proud very quickly at how people have just stepped up after years of being told we can't afford it, we can't do it, let's not look at it, to saying, okay, what's the blue sky? What's possible? And then what's the gap between where we are and what's possible? And what do we really think we want to do? So I would say that the team has done almost a 180 in terms of approach, attitude, mindset, pace, vision, and that's just been incredibly exciting. And folks who are really on my senior team, in my direct reports, I think only one is a new hire. Everybody else was either there or in a different role. But it's been fantastic. I mean, it's really what makes it work.
So there's a lot of communication as far as this is how we're doing. I'm sure being a little more stern and forceful.
Well, accountable, holding people accountable, right? But also just when you release people from sort of this mindset of, well, let's see what happens, to let's go get it, people step up, or they don't, right? And the people who are working with us today have stepped up and have great ideas and are really smart and motivated, and that's how it works.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. So my next question is, you obviously came before Congress recently. Yeah. It was the last couple of weeks or so, maybe longer. And you were just talking about the plight of the medium-sized hub. You compared yourself, Cleveland, St. Louis, et cetera. And just share some of the things that you spoke about. Yeah,
I think that for those of us who have been de-hubbed, and there's a bunch of us, right? Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, St. Louis, Memphis, Milwaukee, Raleigh. We have infrastructure needs that are different than a large hub airport that may be up against capacity. We need more capacity. How do we build it? Or a small hub airport that says we're right-sized, but we're not self-sufficient. Okay, well, we're caught right in the middle, because what happens is that in the existing funding allocation or structure, priority is given to capacity enhancement projects. Well, we don't need to grow, okay? What we need is a modernized space. We need space that is right-sized and not too costly for the airlines to have to carry in a cost structure, because, we built it 15, 25 years ago. So my point in the testimony, and it was just 2 weeks ago, was to say, let's look at where we put our federal infrastructure dollars, because the medium market in the center of the country has a lot of needs that are unique from everything else that's getting funded today, and we have to look at them separately. So that was my pitch.
With the with the new administration, do you feel that it's on a better track than it was before, maybe closer, or is it still kind of to be determined?
I think it's still to be determined. I like the fact that airports are finally at the table. I like the fact that airports are being called out as part of the industry, and that we seem to have the same energy put towards infrastructure of airports as we've thought about in terms of routes and markets for airlines. I mean, commercial airlines and manufacturers have always gotten the most attention in the industry. I understand, it's very sexy stuff. Airports tend to be a little more meat and potatoes or something, infrastructure. But we're incredibly important, and I think that finally being at the table is fantastic, and I'm really pleased to see the kind of attention that's being paid to the needs of the airports.
So you feel like we're on the right track, or at least inching forward?
I do, and I think that it's great that people are finally recognizing that airports are key to economic development. And we've seen that. If you take a look at any of the medium communities that lost their hubs, there was an impact on business. No question. On whether it's the dentist who, suddenly has 10,000 fewer residents in the area because they all had to go somewhere else for their jobs or whatever, a company that won't locate there because the air service profile isn't the same, there's an impact. And so good air service, regardless of how much you take that for granted in a large city, is nothing easy to secure when you're, competing for it all the time. So, as most of us are at every level. So I just want to make sure that the medium hub airports aren't further disadvantaged in the current funding rules. That's my goal.
Perfect. My last question really is pretty simple. Let's just fast forward to, it's the end of your tenure, 5, 10, 15, 20, however many years from now.
All right.
And let's just imagine that, you're looking back. What would you like the airport to look like now that you're gone?
Yeah, I'd like it to look like an origin and destination airport, not like a connecting hub. So I would like there not to be a train in between ticketing and airside. I would like there to be a very right-sized, modern, I don't want to say tight. I would like it to be a facility that's vibrant and that reflects the community and that feels like you've arrived someplace special. One of the things I've discovered being new to Pittsburgh is the history there of entrepreneurship and innovation is phenomenal, and I did not appreciate that. So to be able to reflect that as part of its history, but also as part of its future, I think is incredibly exciting as an opportunity. So I'd like the facility to be what it should be to serve the O&D needs of the population, and I'd like the service profile, to include a lot more West Coast. I think at that point we could be looking at, with aircraft technology, we could be looking at a lot more nonstop into Europe and beyond.
Well, thank you very much for sitting down.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you, as always.